Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, new paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week, Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, and be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. And welcome to Tell Me Your Story. Indeed, I am Richard Dugan, and you are listening to and watching a program that brings you new paradigms for a new world. We are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And today, we're going to give you some new choices on how to become more. And guess what? You can't get to better until you get to different. And we're going to talk about that. We're a very special guest here on the program. It's really a pleasure to have the author of this book called Become More, Dianna Kokoszka. Thank you for being with us here on the program.
Thank you, Richard. It's so much fun. And just listening to you before we got started, I mean, I can tell we're in for a real treat to add value to a lot of people.
Well, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. It's funny. I have this little philosophy of mine. And this interview was not difficult to put together. That doesn't diminish by any means the quality of what we're going to talk about. But I've had situations where it has taken countless ways to try to get an interview with a guest. And my philosophy is that just means that it's really going to be dynamite. The harder it is, the more challenging it is to get the guest. It just means it's just going to be an incredible conversation. Well, this is by no means, doesn't diminish the opportunity that we're going to have here to talk about the very title of your book, Becoming More. And one of the places I want to start with is discovering who we are now in the context of becoming more, okay? In terms of part of the subtitle here about getting to different. Tell us, let's just go with the present moment. Who am I? Who are you in this context before I say, okay, I want to be more. Please, I want to be more.
Well, I think it's very interesting that what you say, Richard, because the main thing is every single one of us have trained our brain to be a certain way. It's just who we're being. And a lot of people go, oh, don't pay any attention. I'm just that way. Well, what is that way? And what does that mean, right? Mm-hmm. And when you say, who are you to someone, well, they could answer in numerous ways. Like, I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a wife, I'm a child of God, I'm a friend, I'm an aunt. I mean, it could go on and on and on. Yet we generally describe ourselves with a title like mother or sister. Yet who is it that we're actually being? characteristic wise. And what have we taught our brain? And if we don't like where we're at, even in one area of our life, whether it be relationship or in business or whatever area, we can change it. And we can change our brain to a new way of thinking, which then allows us to become more, to become different. Yet, if we keep doing the same thing all the time, that's insanity, according to Einstein, right? Expecting a different result, doing the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I quote him all the time for that very reason. And one of the examples, and it's in the not too distant past, we had a situation in this country where we went through. They struggled forever to try to figure out what to call it, but they finally called it the Great Recession of 2008. And I remember some economists and commentators and so on and so forth basically saying, we've never been here before. This is all new. This is totally different. We've not experienced this kind of a situation, da 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 da. And I thought, okay, then that means that you're probably going to try to do some different things that we've never done before. Since we've never been here before, all the
Yeah.
rules have changed, right? Wrong. They used exactly the same solutions to a problem that they said we had never been to before. Many of the contradictory things that took place, at least from my understanding of what capitalism and free enterprise is, and no, we're not getting into economics here. This is the example. Is that you let the market determine? All right. Let the customers, let the consumer determine what companies continue to provide products and services, and those companies that can't make it, well, guess what? They close up and go. Again, another violation of that general unwritten rule. They bailed out this company and that company and the other company and da 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 da. And I'm going, wait a minute. Where was the whole thing about let the market determine the survivors, so to speak, or the thrivers? I like to use that word instead. So yeah, what you're saying in that regard is we do tend to do the same things over and over and over again. Would you say though that in a manner of speaking, we do that unconsciously because maybe there's this, I don't know, it also becomes second nature to do the same thing over and over again. And so we almost have to wake up. And I'm not talking about being woke, folks. Just knock that off. Waking up to what's going on and what you were just saying too about if you don't like where you are. Is that a fair assessment that a lot of people are just because they're playing the game of insanity, it's because they're just going through the motions. They're just kind of in a daze because they've been bombarded by so much stuff from the outside world?
Well, yes, and our brain loves to go fast. In fact, the way that we've trained our brain, we've hardwired it to certain things. It's who we are being.
Mm-hmm.
See, we learn information, and that's where we take it in through our neocortex. And then once we learn the information, we decide if we want to implement that. And once we implement the information and we do it over and over and over again, then it goes into the cerebellum where we are now being it. So we go from having the information to doing it to becoming it. And that's where we form habits. I'll bet each person that's listening to this, they got up and they went through the same routine. They get up, they brush their teeth, they put on the same slippers, they drink from the same mug for their coffee, they drive to work the same way, they meet with the same people, and they hope and expect something different to change. See, I think it's through deliberate choice that things start to change. And we have this thing that it's said that we live between B and D, birth and death. And between B and D is C, and C stands for choice. We come into this world looking like we're innocent, and we go out of this world looking like our decisions. And so by making a deliberate choice, Can't control the first thought we have in our mind, yet we can control the second one. And when we decide to change and we make ourselves aware of the desire and the direction that we want to go, we're the ones that have to now form a new habit. And that's what we're doing. And it takes about 66 days to form a new habit.
Now, that's a little different, although as time has gone on in my conversations, that number has risen. It started out back when I was listening to people like Leo Buscaglia, Dennis Waitley, Wayne Dyer, even Zig Ziglar. They would say 30 days. And that ain't
Yeah.
a bad start. It's not a bad start, but it doesn't sound like you're really into it quite yet.
No, what they're finding is it takes longer because things change, right?
Mm-hmm.
The environment changes, and about 80% of our success is the environment that we put ourselves in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the interesting part is it was in Psycho-Cybernetics was the book,
Yes, I'm familiar.
and he said 21 days. And so that's the way I always quoted it until I started doing research. And also in the book, The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan, they say 66 days, and they have the research to prove that.
Mm,
Who knows if it's changed since in the last 2 years? Yet that's what I still go with is the
okay.
66 days of doing it over and over and over again.
Mm,
Because here's what happens, Richard. We have a thought and it it starts with a neuron, right? I'm going to simplify this, but it
mm-hmm.
goes from one neuron along an axon, like a pathway, hits another neuron, and the thought's completed. Well, that's like taking, say, a patch of grass and you walk across it. The first time, it's no big deal. Second time, probably no big deal. Yet you walk across that path over and over again, it's going to make a rut to where the grass actually goes away. Well, if our brain loves to go fast and we've made that pathway so thick and so strong because they tell us nerve cells that fire together wire together, we're automatically going to go that way, whether we like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Now, once we make a decision to take a different path across that grass, well, pretty soon the grass starts filling in and it grows back. And neuroscience tells us that nerve cells that no longer fire together no longer wire together, which means we can make a new pathway, a new way of thinking, which will alter our feelings, which will alter our actions.
Mm. You know, you also brought to mind something I just saw, uh, um, and it was, and I wish I could remember the people, their names, their credentials, et cetera, but they were discussing this particular aspect of a condition that uh, I actually suffer with. Well, I don't want to say suffer with, that I'm dealing with, and medically, and it's under control, you know, and I'm not going to suffer the deleterious effects of it, and that's type 2 diabetes. Now, initially, it is claimed that it is due to imbalance of your glucose, your sugar levels. I love sodas, but I like the fizz more than the sweet, although the sweet ain't bad. And so I cut them out. All right. And when I was first diagnosed, it took me a month and a half, and I had my glucose levels back to normal
Wow.
without medication. All right. But then when my father passed away, my glucose levels got out of whack again, so I had to go back on the meds, and I have been on ever since. Well, here's where I'm going with this. This conversation I was listening to was talking about the biology or the physiology of the human being and the effects of, and this was the conversation regarding type 2 diabetes, the effects of having resentment
Mm-hmm.
towards your partner, your children, whoever. And that was affecting some some of the chemistry in the body. And that's what was causing the the sugar to be out of balance. Now, I had never heard that before. However, um, I was trying to share with my doctor that because of my father's passing, and due to the fact that there's emotions there and it triggers the hormones, which affect, the domino effect.
Right.
You know, and he said, no, That's not, no, that's not how it works. And I'm just sitting here going, well, you may be the doctor, but I'm the one who's dealing with the condition. So I'm going to trust my intuition here and say, yeah, I need to work on, maybe I need a little therapy, a little counseling. That's fine. What do you think about that in terms of this process of becoming more? And that part of the issue is that it is our chemistry that's out of whack because of the maybe the level of unconsciousness that we are functioning in, and that's sort of keeping us there. So there is sort of a biological aspect to it.
Well, Richard, I love that you brought this up because I have a saying that our cells eavesdrop on our thoughts. See, every time we have a thought, and I was telling you how it goes along a pathway, and there's much more involved than this, yet it hits the neuron, a chemical is released. And that chemical goes into our system. And each thought that we have, when you have negative thoughts, it releases things that don't make us feel good. And when we have positive thoughts, well, it gives us chemicals that make us feel good. So here's an interesting part because Dr. Joe Dispenza has said this before that we can become addicted to our thoughts. And when you think about that, if alcohol is a chemical and drugs are a chemical, and you take too much of alcohol, you can become an alcoholic, or if you can become a druggie.
Mm-hmm.
So you get addicted to alcohol, you get addicted to drugs. Well, it only makes sense if alcohol is a chemical and drugs are a chemical. Why can't we get addicted to our thoughts? And so when you find somebody, and when I was doing my research, I started looking at people that tended to be angry all the time. And then looking at people that just seemed to have joy no matter what was happening in their life and speaking with them and talking with them. And when you said resentment, yes, the person that was angry, they were always finding something to be angry about. And therefore, I said, well, complaining equals a garbage magnet. The more this person complained, the more garbage just happened to come into their life. And yet, the person that was joyous, the more that they spoke positive and showed gratitude, the more they seemed to be grateful for. And it was interesting to see what was happening within them and their health. The one went on to bad health, the other one still having great health. Dr. Amen did a study where he brought 30 people in. It's in his book, Change Your Brain, Change Your Life. And he talks about 30 people, or they come in and for 30 minutes, they sit and they write for about 5 of those minutes on things that they're grateful for. Grateful for the air they breathe, the car they drive, their family, their house, their heart beating, all of these types of things. Then they did brain scans. The entire brain, Richard, was lit up. The neocortex to learn the logical side of the brain, the emotional side that was happiness and joy, and the cerebellum where the creativity and all of that intuition comes from, who we're being, right? And then they had them go back and they did what if? What if my dog died? What if I lost my job? What if somebody hacked into my bank account? What if, what if, what if? What if I was diagnosed with a bad disease?
Mm.
And then they did brain scans. Nothing was lit up except for the emotional side of the brain, of stress and anxiety, of worry. And so, was it their thoughts that did this to them? Was it the chemicals that were going into their system? It's just interesting to think about how much our thoughts either limit us or they liberate us. And in the book, each part of how we train our brain to a new way of thinking, a new way of being, to becoming more, it's a model. And every chapter takes us through the limiting part and the liberating part. And then we decide, do we desire to change? And will we dedicate ourselves to make that change and to teach our brain to that new way of thinking? And it's a choice.
Mm. I find this interesting, the conversation we're having, because people are feeling in many different ways, very stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that causes people to be stuck, I want you to address this, is how do I put this? The mental, I'm going to call it mental aberration
Okay.
of victimhood
Yes.
that is perpetrated by the outside world. And you can talk about whatever institution you want. There, that's what's going on. So let's talk about how to to break through the victimhood mentality to start to do something that most people really don't want to do. Take personal responsibility for their lives.
Isn't that the truth? They want to blame everybody else. You know, Richard,
Yep.
my my dad said, when Dianna, when you point the finger that way, you got three fingers pointing right back at you. So odds are 3 to 1, it's your own fault. Take responsibility and move on with your life, right? And that what happens in our life is let's think about this. It's a model in the book. It says something happens. We have an experience of some kind. And then our brain goes through all the things because we store everything in our brain with our memories, and it goes through like our own filing cabinet, and it goes, oh, this time was like that time. And we instantly make up a judgment. I mean, we are judging machines. It's either too hot, too cold. I like that shirt. I don't like that shirt. I like this. I don't like that. We're judging all the time. And so once we go into that judgment, we form a story. And when we form the story, there's a part of our brain called the reticular activating system. I call it the RAS for short. And it's like our Google search engine. Richard, when we put something into the computer and we ask Google a question, it doesn't show us everything on the internet, on the World Wide Web. It just shows us what we ask for.
Hmm.
Well, see, our brain is such that our eyes will only see and our ears will only hear what our brain tells it to, and that's the RAS. The RAS is going to tell us what's important. We want to look good and be right. So it says, hey, this is important. Pay attention because let's make that story that you just made up, this illusion that you came up with, we're going to make it right. And we're only going to find things that make it right. Evidenced by we buy a car. Before we bought that car, we probably didn't notice how many cars were on the road that looked just like ours. Yet once we drive that car off the lot, man, we notice it everywhere. Why? Because we made up a story. It's a great car. And our Raz goes, look, you're right. It's a great car. Other people, you started a trend for heaven's sakes. So we've got this story, and every story, Richard, has a victim, it has a villain, and it has a hero. And we get to choose which one we're going to play in our life. And we can say, we're the target, we're the whipping post, we're the fall guy. You know, it's their fault.
Mm.
Or we can retaliate. We have that resentment build up and we just, oh man, we're the villain. We want to go after him and we become the bully, the scoundrel, the cutthroat, so to speak. Or we can become the hero of our own life, which will liberate us. It's where we're the overcomer, we're the achiever, we're the rescuer of
Mm.
ourselves. And most people, they're so busy playing a stand-in in this story called their life instead of the main character. And they don't realize that they could pick up the pen and start writing a new story. And they start with their thoughts, making up a new story. Sit down and write out the new story. Write out your obituary. I ask them to do this. I know that sounds creepy, yet narrow it down to what you want to be known for, and then start living your life and making decisions to be known for that for your new story, because you can create any story that we desire.
Somebody said to me not long ago on that vein, in that vein, when I was going through a challenging period of time, a couple 3 years ago, it wasn't a medical issue, but nonetheless, Richard, you can rewrite your own script. You wrote the darn thing in the first place.
Yes.
And so yeah, absolutely, we can do that. We can write our own script. We can rewrite it. We can change it. Can't I don't know about deleting it, but nonetheless, that's what we're
No,
talking about here. That's what we're
yeah,
talking
we
about.
can change the past, yet we can change the
Yeah.
present right now. And that's where change happens, is in the present. We have to, awareness is the first step to change, right? And so, Richard, it's interesting with what you say, because the people, when you pick up that pen and you start writing your own story, everything starts changing in our world. Our
Hmm.
thoughts start changing. We become, you said Zig Ziglar. Zig Ziglar used to come to our home. And the one thing I remember him always saying to me is, Dianna, you will become like your five closest friends, the five people you hang out with the most. That's who you're going to become like. So choose them very carefully.
Mm,
And I always thought, really? I mean, I was in grade school, for heaven's sakes. I have to choose my friends very carefully, right?
yeah. That's also you mentioned something else that I've written about in my book, Choices: 5 Steps for Life, and that is that we all have choices. It doesn't matter what your circumstances are. You can make whatever choices you want, but the question is, are they? And I'll use this term, educated. Are they educated choices? In other words, have you done some research? And yeah, okay, we could sit here and for example, one of my dreams for my wife and I is to move to Ireland. For the re for reasons that we love the country and the people. It has nothing to do with, how they say when you are when you're running away to something, you're running away from something.
Yes.
I have no problems here. I would rather be there because we love the green, we love we love the cool weather, and the people. I mean, the people are actually at the top of that list.
People are fabulous. I've
Yeah.
been to Ireland and I would go back over and over again. I agree with you. So when do you think you'll do that?
Well, my wife and I told her when the radio station that I work for was sold a year ago, and now it's been a year, and they've kept the format, and I'm still here, and I'm getting more and more involved in the process. I said, our plan is to take a trip to Ireland next fall, 2025. The fall, maybe might be late fall, but fall of 2025. And I mean, that puts it 20 years, 21 years since we've been. And So that's the plan. And my other part of the plan is to buy one-way tickets. You
I
know,
like that. You're going to burn the boat, so to speak, right?
you
That's
got
a
it.
commitment.
That's right.
It's a commitment.
That
And well, I
little,
have friends over there if when you get ready to go, give me a
I
call.
will be getting in touch with you and those friends of yours. Matter of fact, in January of this coming year, 2025, I have an interview with a woman from Ireland who's in Ireland. We had to really work to coordinate our schedules to get this interview,
Yeah.
and I'll be talking to her too about, hey, we'll set up in your garage. And quite
We'll be
honestly,
ready to go.
it doesn't matter where. But that's one of the things that I know a lot of people they don't. Oh, there is a line from one of John Denver's songs, and it goes, "People are afraid to dream, and dreams don't cost a cent." Do you feel that this book you've written, Becoming More, you can't get to better until you get to different? Do you feel that a lot of people are very challenged because maybe they have, and I'm going to put it this way, they have forgotten how to dream because either A, their dreams have been squashed, or B, the life they've lived has not afforded what they perceive as the opportunity to dream. I mean, dream? I'm working paycheck to paycheck. That's about all I can do right now, and just try to keep food on the table and a roof over our family's head, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
No, you're absolutely right. A lot of people have forgotten to dream. There's a gentleman up in Canada, Bayer Batar, and he sent me a video. The video started out with him sitting on a rock with my book. and it said, "What books are you reading and rereading? And where are your books taking you?" And then the camera span, and he was on the top of Kilimanjaro. And
Mm.
he, as the email went on with the video, he said, "I forgot to dream. I had put all of my dreams somewhere hidden way deep into the ground." And he said, "For some reason, as I read the book, they started bubbling back up. And I went back through, starting to train my brain to that new dream, well, an old dream that
Mm-hmm.
became new again. And it lit that fire within him to start climbing. He's now on his third mountain. He is going to climb all 7 of the highest mountains in the world. He is absolutely determined. And he sends me a video. He sent me one from the second, and he sent me a video just yesterday that said, "Here I am at the base of the 3rd mountain," and then scans up and says, "And that's my destination." See, he had to teach himself to dream again, because these beliefs, when we have a thought over and over and over again, it becomes a belief. And that belief gets down inside of us, and we start believing that we don't have what it takes, that we're too old, that we don't make enough money, that that dream has to be hidden, and we start having regrets. Whereas when you look at Colonel Sanders at 65, that's when he started Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's
Mm-hmm.
never too late to dream. Yet we've got to train our brain again to a new way of thinking, to playing that character that we desire to play, to have that dream come alive again through our mindset, because we've limiting ourselves. We've got to start liberating ourselves and start doggone living the life that we deserve to live, because we are the creator, we are the crusader, and we are the champion of our own life when we decide to be. And I get real passionate about this, because those limiting beliefs, they're invisible chains that are holding us back. And people are living in this cage, Richard,
Mm-hmm.
that they've created. The bars on that cage are their thoughts. And inside that cage is their comfort zone. And they become so comfortable being the victim, or so comfortable with using those excuses or reasons, so to speak, that it's hard to break out of.
Mm.
In the book, I talk about 4 storytellers in our brain. And those 4 storytellers, very quickly, are the devious storyteller that tells us we can't do it, we don't have what it takes. And it keeps telling us over and over again, and we buy it, right? And then the second one, well, that could be the flattering storyteller that says, "Oh, you already know that you'll never make it, so don't listen to anybody else. She's telling you you can dream again. She doesn't know what she's talking about. You know you're right." Or it may even say, "I'm so good, I don't need to listen to anybody else," right? The
Yeah.
third one is the one that frightens me the most. It's the reasonable storyteller. It's the one that allows us to use reasons and excuses for where we're at in life.
Mm.
The fourth one is the one I desire to bring alive. It's the one I desire to feed and starve the other ones out. And that's the empowering storyteller, the one that allows us to empower ourselves to a new story, the story that we desire, like Bayer Batar, who now is climbing mountains again, because
Mm.
that's what he dreamed of as a child.
That's very cool. We're talking with Dianna Kokoszka, and we're talking about her book, Becoming More. You Can't Get to Better Until You Get to Different. And the website we're going to send you to, which we will be linked to as well, folks, is dynamicgrowthcollective.com. Dynamicgrowthcollective.com. As I said, we will be linked to that website as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, along with Dianna Kokoszka. I have to say, I was just thinking about your last name, and it makes me think this woman comes from royalty. That just sounds like Queen Kokoszka or Princess Kokoszka, you know. I love that. And there is a certain truth to that from the standpoint that you are a rather benevolent queen or princess, if you will, who wants what's best for the rest of us, as well as for herself. You touched upon something that I want to dive into a little bit, and that is our past. I I have said over many years in my adulthood, in this particular career I've been doing for over 45 years, I don't like sales. All right. I was told different things, different philosophies that, oh, sales, it's about relationships. No, no, it's about getting a check for the company that you're working for. Da, 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 da. Well, as a kid growing up, from eighth grade through high school, I was a paper boy. And we would go out some evenings and we would knock on doors to solicit subscriptions. And I was so good at it that I would go on various trips to Disneyland and to SeaWorld. I'd win this prize and that prize.
Wow.
I still have the certificates in my file folder to prove this. All right. So I go through high school. I go to college for 3 semesters. I get into this business. And when my wife and I moved here in 2006 to Santa Barbara, I went to work for a company called Bargain Network. And they sold these little booklets, kind of like Auto Trader. But they were updated every month and you'd subscribe, 29.95 or something like that. And I was talking to my dad one day and I says, Dad, I hate this job. I cannot stand this. It's just off. I mean, I just really don't like it. And my dad says, Hey, just calm down. Don't worry about it. You could sell ice cubes to Eskimos. Okay. So just relax. Now, as I come to the end of that time there before I moved on to work for a local TV station, I I was in the last month there, one of their top sellers. They had this raised booth where the top sellers of the group, they would do their sales in there. The company would feed us lunch and so on and so there were other perks as well. And I have the paperwork to prove that as well.
Yeah.
And I look at that and I am now back in sales again because I want to promote not only the station but this program and encourage people to get involved. I've got a great slogan and so forth. And I say all that to ask this question: how important is it to look back at our past? Does it help or hurt us, or is it how we look at it? Can you address looking in the rearview mirror?
Yeah. Well, it's like driving. We glance in the rear view mirror from time to time to see what's going on, and yet we have to look forward. And maybe that's why the rear view mirror is so small and our windshield is so big, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to look forward. We're going forward. I think we learn from our past. The sad part is a lot of people have been trained that mistakes are to be avoided, that there's something wrong, that they'll never be successful if they make a mistake and they'll look bad. Well, we do want to look good and be right. And so I would like to just tell everybody, make some mistakes. It's good. Talk about your mistakes and people will actually be drawn to you. You talk about your successes, it's like you're not giving them a chance to be like you are. When you talked about sales, it's like I do believe in taking a stand for people's greatness more than they stand for their limitations. And we just, for some reason, want to hang on to our past. Well, it's the past, it's moved on. We need to move on as well. Learn from it. Say, here's some mistakes I've made. What did I learn from them? And then I also want to bring up, though, I love that you kept those awards because see, I think everybody needs to have a victory book or a victory file because life's going to push us down. If you're not in a bad situation right now, give yourself time. You'll eventually be in one because we don't get out of this life without a roller coaster ride, the highs and the lows, right? Yet we tend to focus on the low points, on the things that are going wrong, instead of keeping that victory log, even if it's just one sentence a day, one word, something you did correct. And go back to that when you have those low points. Remind yourself who you are. We started out talking about who you're being. Well, choose. Do you want to be the one that is getting beat down, or do you want to be the one that rises back up? Go to your victory log and remember who you are. And then take a stand for yourself because, well, borrow my belief in you until you have your own. I guess that would be the best way to say it.
I've also heard it said too that because there are those who think very highly of themselves, they're very confident. I have a certain level of confidence, but I'm also recognizing number one, my limitations. I call them perceived limitations. I also recognize the role that the thousands of people in my life have played to have me where I am today. But then there are others who think that they've done it all on their own.
Oh,
And I'm the last person to ever say that. I mean, the first people I would ever give credit to, the very first people, would be my parents for
hmm,
bringing me into this world. You know,
right.
and then I'd go down the list from there. What about the aspect of building one's self confidence, self worth, that is, I guess maybe the right word is appropriate or balanced or what have you. I mean, we're going to have the highs and lows, but at the same time, it's like I'm good at what I do. Is there something wrong with me saying that? Of course not.
No, that's a fact. And so I'm so glad that you brought this up. There's a difference between self-confidence and self-worth. I think a lot of people hold themselves back because they don't believe they deserve it. I know my husband, uh, as time went on, he's always wanted an Aston Martin, and eventually he bought it. And I said, "You don't drive the car. You drive the other car all the time." And he goes, "Yeah, yeah." Well, as we started talking and me asking him a lot of questions, we realized he didn't feel worthy because, after all, he was making a lot more than his dad ever made. He was told he was never going to make that much money. And he had to get over that guilt, if you want to call it that, to where he was worthy enough to drive the car he always wanted to drive. Now he's thinking about selling it again, and we're going back through the guilt part, right? Well, also, with the people that think they did it by themselves, when you drink the water, don't forget who dug the well, right?
Mm,
Because
mm,
somebody
mm,
dug that well and somebody started you off, even if it was a third grade teacher telling you how to think or putting you on the right path.
mhm.
So let's just get over ourselves. I think that we all have successes. I mean, I took a company from losing $1 million a year to making over $500 million. That's a
Mm,
success. That's a fact. That doesn't give me the right to be so self-confident that, woo, I'm so better than anybody else. Humility is not thinking less of ourselves, it's thinking of ourselves less. And as
mm,
leaders, we're here to serve other people. And when people start thinking, hey, you're here to serve me, that's when we get a little off kilter, right? When we think
yeah.
so much of ourselves, that's the self-confidence or the self-arrogance, I'm going to say. Self-confident is saying, you know, I built that company along with a lot of other people helping me. I was the leader. Yet without the other people, I never could have done it.
Mm,
Also, it's a fact that it was done. But to sit there and say, oh, I did it all by myself. I'm really good. I'm better than you. You should listen to everything I say because I'm right. No, that's arrogance.
yeah. Yeah.
Confidence is saying, I'm here to help. I'm not sure I have all the right answers, but I got a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I believe I can do it. I believe in myself because I've done it before. And even if I haven't done it before, I believe because I somewhere along, you were in TV, now you're in radio. You did it before.
Hmm.
You are constantly doing it. And let's face it, every one of us are in sales. We sell our spouse to go to a certain movie or to go to the store with us. We're always selling something, even if we're selling ourselves that we're great or we're selling ourselves that we're not so great. We're all
Yeah.
doing a sales job. Let's, it doesn't matter where you're at, right?
Yeah, that is what I have heard, that we're all selling ourselves at one time or another in some fashion or another. And I mean, even in a getting into a relationship, with
Yes.
someone, you're doing the first date. You're doing a sales job, is what you're doing to hopefully get them to come to your side, and they're doing the same thing. As
Right.
much as we would like to go into a situation like that or any other with no masks. We have the masks. It's what they're there for, and I think that the key is that if we recognize that, then we go into it honestly. Okay, I am wearing a mask. I'm wearing the dating mask. All right,
Right.
but I'm gonna try to tone down the attempts to impress, you know, and so forth. And we all get nervous, whether it's a job interview. I mean, I remember, matter of fact, I was recording the Audible for my book, and I was reading through a section where I was going into an interview for a radio station back in Phoenix. And when I was, I barely remember the interview itself. All I remember afterwards was this is what I told myself. I did a horrible job. I mean, oh my God,
Mm.
all I saw were the flaws.
Right.
I didn't get the job, but it had nothing to do with that. And so it that is something that I think is real important. We're talking with Dianna Kokoszka, author of Becoming More. You can't get to better until you get to different. As we continue talking here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and Dianna Kokoszka is my guest. And the website we want to send you to so that you can find out more about the work she's doing, get a copy of the book, dynamicgrowthcollective.com. Dynamicgrowthcollective.com is the website. And I want to ask, as we continue on here, what is your thought on how important this process of becoming more is and incorporating our intuition? We promote on this program spending time going within and listening to that still small voice during this, the decade of perfect vision, the 2020s. What are your thoughts?
I love that you bring this up. I mean, you're bringing up so many great, great points for people. It is important that we go within. It's important that we grow within because we either grow within or we go without, right? It's important that we're always working to multiply the talents that we've been given, to become more. Even just that little 1% difference makes such a difference. And a lot of people think that they have to have massive change in their life. No, 1%. See, water at 211 degrees can make tea for me. It can make instant soup, instant coffee. It can burn me if I pour it on me. Yet at 212 degrees, that 1 degree difference, it can make steam and take an ocean liner around the world. That's when water boils.
Mm,
So are you willing just to even do that little 1% difference? And you've got to go within because you're the one that knows yourself best. Otherwise, you wouldn't be putting on those masks, right?
mm,
Everybody else. I mean, and we go out of our house a lot of times with this smile on our face and we tell people, oh, yeah, I'm doing good. Oh, yeah, I'm feeling fine, when we're really not. And it's that I think people are screaming for authenticity right now. They're screaming for transparency and not to the point that we should sit there and go, oh, I just feel terrible. And then take 10 minutes to tell them how terrible you feel. It's just like, I'm doing better than most. It's a good answer. Yet to
mm-hmm,
sit there and say, oh, everything is fabulous when it's not, people
mm-hmm.
can we have this energy about us, Richard. Don't you believe that each one of us has an energy that we're broadcasting, and that energy actually hits people before we can hand them a business card? We have an
Mm-hmm.
energetic calling card that we're broadcasting all the time.
Mm,
So I think going within to say, who am I really? And who is it that I desire to be? And what do I have to change in my life to be that person that I desire to be, to do the things that have to be done. See, a lot of people think, well, if I have what somebody has, then I can do what they do and then I can be like them. Richard, I believe that people do have to go inside because they know who they are. They know who they are being. And we put on this mask because we do want to look good and be right. And we walk out of our house, maybe we're not feeling that good. Maybe we're a little depressed that day. We're anxious, we're stressful. People say, "How are you?" And what do we say? "Oh, fine," right? Or, "Wow, I'm doing great." And we put on this mask of who we're not being. I think in today's world, people want authenticity and they want transparency. Now, they don't want you to say, "Ooh, it's a terrible day," and go on for 10 minutes about how terrible it is. Yet, maybe even an answer with, "I'm doing better than most." It's always a good answer, right? It doesn't say you're doing great. Why would we say we're so fabulous and doing great when we're not?
Yeah.
Or, "I could use a little help today." Something like that. I think people, they they're always judging themselves and comparing themselves against others. And we're judging our outsides compared to their insides. We don't know what they're going through. They could have on a mask as they talk with us. Go or do have be. It goes from be, do, have, and eventually we give back. We go from success to significance, from where it's all about us and all the things that we do to giving back, like you are, Richard, right now, giving back through your radio show, through literally interviewing other people. You're helping them to become more.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. We're talking with Dianna Kokoszka, and it's becoming more. That's what we're talking about, even more so. How do we do that? That's what she's trying to share with us here on the program as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and Dianna Kokoszka is my guest. And, this is, um, I normally do not make reference to the challenges that one faces during interviews such as this. And I'm not going to go into detail, just suffice it to say that both Dianna and I have been facing certain challenges that you are not aware of, other than the fact that now I've made you aware of it. And yet, it almost seems as though, on the one hand, and again, I'm not going to play the victim here, I'll do my best to phrase this right. It's almost as if there's a certain element out there that says, no, 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 no. You don't want to talk about this. No, we don't want this out there. Okay. And that compels and propels us both forward, right? That no, we're going to talk about this. This is too important at this time in our human history, shall we say. This has got to be talked about. And I've even had some guests who basically say, "Oh yeah, there are demons out there. They don't want this talked about, what have you." I don't know that I go quite that far, but what are your thoughts when those kinds of things are coming along? Is it more the universe saying, "How important is this to you? Are you serious?" And so on and so forth?
Well, yes, we're always debating whether something's important to us or not. And that we go back to telling our reticular activating system what is important so it can show us and keep us aware of what's going on out there that's important to only us, no one else.
Hmm.
And you brought up a good point, though, in the people and how even that we speak, what words do we use? Because that is feeding our brain to either limiting us or liberating us, right? I mean, like when people walk around and say, "Oh, I'm so depressed," or "I feel insecure." Well, when we tell ourselves that, well, that brings up insecure feelings. And when we feel insecure, we're going to have more insecure thoughts. And we get caught in this loop from our body to our mind and our mind to our body. When instead of saying, "I'm so depressed," what if we said, "I'm working through something right now"?
Mm. Hmm.
Is there anything that we could work through? Is there any way I could help you? If we say, "I'm so afraid of this," or what if we said, "My confidence isn't quite where it should be." And our brain reacts differently. In fact, the word "I'm frustrated," a lot of people go around, "I'm so frustrated." Well, when we say frustrated, it releases chemicals, it shuts down certain parts of our brain. Whereas if we said, I'm just fascinated with what's going on, fascination allows us to be creative. Our brain goes, what are we fascinated about? What's out there? What possibilities? And so just that one word from I'm so frustrated to I'm so fascinated. I mean,
Mm.
the tonality even sounds different. Or what about uh, oh, I hope. Now, I believe in giving hope, yet, oh, I hope it works out. What if we said, I trust it will work out?
Mm.
And here's one there's a couple that I think are so funny. Like, well, I'm trying to think. No, you're either thinking or you're not thinking. Go to had it right. You're not trying. There is no try, right?
That's right. I was just thinking that.
I can't wait to see you. Well, you're going to have to wait. So
Yeah.
what about I'm looking forward to seeing you instead of I can't wait to see you?
Hmm.
Because that I can't wait, what does that do? Doesn't that make us kind of anxious because it does release chemicals into our system? Whereas I'm looking forward to it. Now we have anticipation, and anticipation brings excitement, and excitement brings joy and happiness, right? So all these words, and once again, the book goes into words that limit us and words that liberate us. And just by changing our vocabulary, and you already know this, Richard, I'm not telling you anything new because you've been around Dennis Waitley and Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn and all of the great ones. And we have great ones around today too.
Hmm.
Yet those of us that grew up with those people, they were the first ones. Norman Vincent Peale, positive mental attitude. They were the ones that were bringing it to the forefront, and people were saying, "You're crazy." Earl Nightingale, "Oh, you're crazy." No, what you plant in your brain, because it's fertile soil, is like a seed and it will grow whatever you water. And we were hearing things like this when we were kids that nobody else was talking about. And yet now research is showing over and over again, it's true. What we plant in our mind will grow.
Yeah,
Our mind is fertile soil.
absolutely. It also reinforces um, the statement that I make pretty darn regularly on this program. Words have power.
Yes.
And whether you are consciously intending or, and I would say in one sense, even worse, unconsciously,
Yeah.
with those words that you speak. And I even use this one example, two phrases. I could use the glass half full, glass half empty, but I like using this one when someone says, that's not bad, that's good.
Yeah.
And it's along the same lines of half full, half empty,
Yes.
that kind of thing. And I kind of joke about the half full, half empty, going, well, my glass is half full, but I'm just curious as to what it's full of. And I wouldn't mind a little shot of Irish cream or or what have you. But talk to
Oh,
us here before we wrap things up. Talk to us about your thoughts about how words have power.
they do have power. When you say, I am confident versus I am scared to death. I mean, just even that. The words to me, most powerful words are I am. What we say after that, we're feeding ourselves. I am great at this, or I am a good mother. I am somebody that puts forward the effort. I am, or do we say I am depressed, or I am anxious, or I am somebody that can't do it, or I am, whatever we say after that, our brain takes in, our RAS takes in and says, hey, your wish is my command. I'm only going to show you how you're that way. And the powerful words like should, people say, oh, I should do this and I should do that and I should have said this. And they're just shoulding all over themselves. Should. And they live a shouldy life. And
Hmm.
so I'm sitting there going, what if you said, next time I'll do this?
Yeah.
Next time I'll say that. And we
Hmm.
learn from that instead of, I think should makes us go into being wrong. And when we're being wrong, we shrink.
Yeah.
when we
Yeah.
think that something's wrong. Whereas when I say next time I'll do this, that's more empowerment. And so even those words should, making a shrink, and next time I'll do this, powerful. Right there, we get to hear the difference. And think about the words and the energy they send out. Oh, I'm so nervous. What kind of energy do you get from me? It's hard for me to even say that because I'm not nervous. I know what I'm talking about, and I feel
Hmm.
very confident in what I'm talking about. Yet, let's take the word worried or entitlement versus gratitude. When we're grateful for things, there are more things to be grateful for. We just find them. In fact, I tell people when you're worried and feeling bad and down, take a gratitude walk. Think about the things that you're thankful for, and then on the way back to your house, or shoot, even going over to the stove, think I'm thankful for these two things, and then on the way back to the sink, say I'm grateful for those two things. Do you know that our brain cannot be in a negative state and a grateful state at the same time?
Mm.
Gratitude makes us move to being positive. So when I say, I am grateful for this, those words are powerful and they give out great energy. There's four energies of success, and that is confidence. That is a great energy to have, not arrogance, confidence.
Hmm.
Being in the present moment is a great energy. And then, of course, optimism, being positive, and gratitude. To me, those are the four energies of success. And when we can keep our brain thinking of what's good, like you said earlier, of thinking about, I can put forward effort. I may not be able to do it correct the first time, yet I can put forward effort. That's a positive attitude. And the fact that I'm going to do it right now in the present moment. And I'm just so grateful that I have the opportunity to move forward with whatever happens. And if I make a mistake, I'll correct it and do better the next time.
Mm.
So words are powerful.
They are indeed. And you've brought a whole lot of other thoughts to mind, which I won't go into right now. But I am encouraging people to go get a copy of your book by going to dynamicgrowthcollective.com. I've got questions about that title. We'll have to save that for another opportunity to sit down and chat with you. But I encourage people to get a copy of Becoming More and go to that website. We will be linked to it as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I am so grateful to have had the opportunity to talk with you today, Dianna Kokoszka, author of Becoming More. And I'm excited about the prospects for the future. The slogan I've come up with for us here in Santa Barbara, here at this radio station, and for me too, is Live in 25. Be a
Oh, love
part
that.
of this program. Be a part of the work we are doing. If you can, we'd love to have you on board. We have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. If you'd like to support us, we just put my email address, richard@richarddugan.com, in there, and support us with whatever you can as we go into the new year. And we also ask, too, that you tune into these programs. We're here on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m. That's 9 programs, ladies and gentlemen, 9 opportunities for you to listen to our guests and glean all the good stuff that there is from these programs. I hope that you'll also go to our guests' websites, such as Dianna's website, Dianna Kokoszka's website, and that happens to be Dynamic Growth collective.com. And we also remind you, too, that Choices 5 Steps for Life is available in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle via Amazon.com. The Audible is coming your way, folks. It is coming your way. I'm just about finished recording it. It takes time because I got lots of other stuff going on too. But it is available there. And of course, as I remind you again, please take the time during this, the decade of perfect vision, to take time to spend that going within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listening to that still small voice. With all of that said, first of all, Dianna, thank you so much for being with us here on the program. It's really been a pleasure. And I do hope we can have you back to continue this conversation, hopefully without the same kinds of challenges. But you know what? Because of or in spite of, we have made it through on this particular episode. So thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. You are a great host.
Well, thank you. I do have three final questions. I ask all of
Okay.
my guests. All right. And so we'll jump right into those. And the first of those is, who is Dianna Kokoszka?
Dianna is a child of God, somebody who desires to take a stand for people's greatness more than they stand for their limitations,
What gets you up in the morning?
adding value to others. In fact, at 7 a.m., my phone goes off with an alarm that says, "What will you do today to add value to others?" And at 7 p.m., the alarm goes off that says, "What did you do today to add value to others?"
And finally, what was your best day?
That is a tough one because I've had so many great days. Um, when I had my children, when I won awards, I would guess it would probably be when a person that I was leading had an opportunity to become a leader in their own right, and just watching them progress and take that position as a leader, that was a great day too.
Hmm.
All sorts of things, watching my kids grow. I just had too many. One is just almost unbearable to think of.
I hear you. I get that response a lot. And I thank you again for joining us here on the program. And I do look forward to having you back again.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure.
And I thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. We're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true and until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast. Love to Lal. Jeanette, I am still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I will see you on the other side. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.